Okay, g'day everyone. Today going to make some kimchi. It's one of my favourite dishes and we've had lots of our friends ask for recipes and the like, so we thought in addition to sharing the recipe, which will go with this video, we'll also go through the steps to make it easy for you, because it's very easy to make. So first of all, if you just look over this area, you can see the ingredients that we're going to put in today. I'm going to make a half volume one. The recipe that we're following calls for a full Asian cabbage, but I'm just going to go half today. So we've got the Asian cabbage, or the wongbok. There'll be half a bunch of the spring onions, enough grated carrot to go for 1 cup. You can see here the garlic that will just peel off and we'll mince. We'll grate the ginger, and also, this is a little bit different, adding turmeric as well. If you haven't done your research, turmeric is very, very good for you. So as many times you can put them in, the more the merrier. And things like this as well, or any of the ingredients, you can really just work out and play around with how much you want in. Sometimes, if you're like me, I love a lot of ginger, so I'll put in ginger. So that's the produce side of things. We need salt. Salt is what helps make the brine and also absorbs the moisture out of the vegetables, which goes into making the brine. I don't add any additional water to our recipe. Salt must be a good salt. Choose a Himalayan or a pink salt, or very, very good sea salt. None of that iodized stuff that you'll find in Hungry Jack's or the like. So there'll be a couple of tablespoons of salt. You can put in chili as well. You could choose fresh chili or dried chili. Again, because of the health benefits, I'm actually using Cayenne pepper, and I never go anywhere without taking my Cayenne and have a lot of that each day. Okay, we're back again. We did some activity while we're away, so we actually grated up the carrot. Now, a few things: the vegetables, ideally organic, GMO free. Where you can't get that, then organic, etc., etc. So you want to wash them really good. For example, if the carrots, if they're not organic or GMO, at the very least you want to peel them to get the outside layer off as well. But definitely fermenting does help with some of the, if there's any nasties in there. Okay, so the other stuff that we had, the resources. We need our mallet to beat down on the vegetables, and that helps the moisture come to the surface, as well as with the salt going in, causes the osmosis and draws the water out. So a mallet, metal, wooden, can choose the bottom of a glass jar or something that makes it easy, because you pound for about 10 minutes or so to really get out all the moisture. I always go for a plastic flat bottom container. It makes it a lot easier. Or it could be square, or it could be circle. It's a lot harder if you choose like a salad bowl type thing, especially if it's glass. You probably don't want to be hitting it with a metal mallet. So I tend not to use that, and really just try and find a plastic flat bottom one. In terms of the jar itself, you could use a crock pot if you had access to a crock pot. Most of us don't, so a mason jar is a very, very good substitute, because we really want to be able to seal it all in there, have no air, so we have an anaerobic reaction, but when there is a build-up of CO2, we just quickly vent off and then attach it back in. So I found mason jars are very good to use for that. So we've progressed a little bit in our kimchi making area. We've grated our ginger down. We've grated down our turmeric after peeling it first and then grating it. Just a word of warning around turmeric: it can stain very quickly. So use it on wood or something like that, not your best white china. You can see even on the hands, really just touching a little bit, can also stain. So put that down. what we've got in here already, we've diced up the shallots down here on the bottom, so half a bunch, and this is 1 cup of grated carrot, which has been really pressed down really hard. So there's a lot there, and that's just a little bit of the Chinese cabbage already in. So if you haven't used one of these before, try to just mince up the garlic. This is actually a really good one, a nice one to use. So this is our 3rd clove. There's 3 cloves in here, and for the garlic, can give it a bit of smell. So if you're sensitive to garlic, you mightn't want to put as much garlic in. I have seen some recipes with no garlic, so totally up to you. But I like garlic, and garlic's very good for you, very good antibacterial. We'll put in our ginger and turmeric. Some good colour in there already. And the last thing we need to do is cut up our Chinese cabbage. So what you want to go for is like squares, large squares. It does crush down a lot, especially when you mash it. So don't be afraid to go big. You don't really want to have it really tightly diced at all. So it's really up to you, but if I just start by going long ways, I want to sort of get that square shape. Maybe one more on here. And I say, okay, that's fairly thin that way, so then I'll make these a little bit larger. And you see now we've got these nice large pieces of Chinese cabbage. So I'll just pick them up and throw them in as well. See, it's starting to fill up rather nicely. I'll probably do it there. And the last thing we need to do is add our salt and cayenne. So again, cayenne pepper is really good. I'm only going to add about half a tablespoon. I made the mistake once of putting in 2 tablespoons. It was a little bit too fiery for me, but that's enough to give it a good bit. And for this recipe, we want 2 tablespoons of salt. And that's probably about 2. That's very good. Okay, so again, the salt is very important for bringing the moisture out of all of your vegetables. So here we are again. We've just put all of the ingredients in, and if you just come a little bit closer already, you can see how this cabbage already is probably glistening. Hope you can pick that up, and you can see just how full of water it is. So this is a really good type of produce to make a kimchi. As I said before, I'm not going to add any water. It's just through the pounding is going to pull out all of the water from within, in addition to the salt. So first of all, before I start pounding, it makes sense to just try and stir in the salt as much as I can, just through all of the different vegetables that are in here. Once you start pounding, it'll mix in as well, but the more you can coat the vegetables or have it exposed to the salt, the faster the salt works and the faster it starts to draw out. So I'm just using a wooden spoon. You could obviously use anything. I also thought about using this thing, but I think the wooden spoon will be enough at this stage. Again, some good colour here, and actually smells really good already. So that'll do at this stage. So pounding, again, general rule of thumb is about 10 minutes that you can pound for. We've already talked about the different type of canisters that you use, or the containers. Plastic is better for this, in my opinion anyway, and just anything that can push down. So you see already, just with that little bit of pounding, it's really started to break down those vegetables. Okay, so I've been going for a couple of minutes now. So you can see here, if you come a bit closer, you can see there's already some lot of moisture on the bottom. The thing I wanted to add that I forgot to talk about is because this is a square dish, I've been crushing pretty hard, and you can see how the big bits have now all started to break down. But you do need to get into the corners, so give it a good stir out so you can get those items that are stuck in the corners, bring them into the center. And again, you can see all that fluid there already gathering, so this is getting that out of there, and again, just moving on. So I've just pre-poured that in at the moment. I haven't done anything to it. You can see it's filled up a fair way. What you want to do is really compact it down. We want all of the vegetables to be contained under the brine because it's an anaerobic reaction, which means not in the presence of oxygen. So we don't want any of our vegetables exposed to the air. We want it all to be covered up. There are other recipes, and some people actually save a big cabbage leaf and fold it up and push it down on the top inside of the jar. They allow the cabbage leaf to be exposed, but everything underneath is underwater. You can do that, but I've found what we've done here, and you can see we have a nice, got full fluid covering. So that's pretty good. Another important thing is you need at least an inch gap between the top of the solution and the top of the jar. With the reaction that occurs, it releases a lot of CO2 and builds up pressure. And if you got it all the way full to the top, there's nowhere for that pressure to go. And I have read about the people who've actually burst their jars. But that won't happen to us because they've got that nice gap there. And now just get everything out of the road and we'll seal it in. So, generally I'll leave this for 3 days, but this depends on the type of climate that it's within. Obviously, the hotter the climate, the faster that this will actually ferment, and the quicker that it'll turn into the kimchi that I want to put in the fridge. If it was a colder climate, it might leave it for 4 days or 5 days. But general rule of thumb, temperature here is probably around 28 degrees. That would allow us about 3 days. You want it to be in a dark area, not exposed to sunlight or anything like that. Generally on the countertop is fine. And you'll start to see it actually bubbling. That's when you know that it's fermenting. And probably on the second day, I'll actually take the top off here and allow the excess CO2 to escape. Do it very, very quickly and seal it back up again. If you followed everything right and you're being hygienic, then it's unlikely that you'll see any mold growing inside. A white coating is fine, that may occur or may not, but as soon as you see a discoloured coating, that's an indication of mold. You want to get that out ASAP. And also if you see the white coloured coating as well, you want to get that out as soon as possible as well. When you're doing that, there's mixed things. I generally use a wooden spoon, I don't use a metal spoon when things start to be reacting. Definitely once the kimchi is fully done, never ever put a metal spoon or anything you've eaten off inside of the jar. You want to always extract it with a clean wooden or plastic into a different container and eat from that. Otherwise, it does cause bad things to grow in there as well. So there we go. That's our kimchi. We'll leave that for a couple of days and we'll see what happens.